1. Analysis of consumer behavior. Concept of utility. Rationality. The relationship between utility and disposable income. Consumers' equilibrium. Significance for economics. Consumer behavior equals a branch which deals with the various stages a consumer goes through before purchasing products or services for his end use. There are several factors which influence buying decision of a consumer ranging from psychological, social, economic, and so on. Why do you think an individual buys a product? Need, social status, gifts. Why do you think an individual does not buy a product? No requirement, finances, taste. When do you think consumers purchase products? Festive season, birthday, anniversary, marriage. Why and why not a consumer buys a product? When a consumer buys a product. How a consumer buys a product. The study of individuals, groups, or organizations and the processes they use to select, secure, and dispose of products, services, experiences, or ideas to satisfy needs and the impacts that these processes have on the consumer and society. It blends elements from psychology, sociology, social anthropology, and economics. It attempts to understand the decision-making processes of buyers, both individually and in groups. Concept of utility equals an economic term referring to the total satisfaction received from consuming a good or service. A consumer's utility is hard to measure. However, we can determine it indirectly with consumer behavior theories, which assume that consumers will strive to maximize their utility. Utility is a concept that was introduced by Daniel Bernoulli. He believed that for the usual person, utility increased with wealth but at a decreasing rate. Rationality occurs when consumers have perfect information, that is, that know all about the product and competitive price of a good, and then make the best choice with the best price. A consumer is rational if he always chooses the feasible alternative that he most prefers. The choice of an alternative that is not the best is irrational. Disposable income, the amount of money that households have available for spending and saving after income taxes have been accounted for. Equals, consumer equilibrium, all consumers strive to maximize their utility. We try to get as much satisfaction as we can. Consumer equilibrium states that consumer maximizes his utility with the given income and with the given price. When a consumer is getting maximum satisfaction with available resources, then he will be in a state of equilibrium. Significance of economics optimizes resource usage. The amount of resources available to us is reducing each day. Economics provides a mechanism for looking at possible ways to optimize resource utilization and reduce wastages. Utilizes the opportunity cost. The scarce resources are utilized efficiently, after calculating and checking the opportunity cost. If you choose something over another thing, then what loss you sustain is the opportunity cost. If we minimize the opportunity cost, we get maximum profits. Gain social efficiency. Understanding of economics leads to better planned economy. Stabilizes the overall economy. Only through economically sound practices can we ensure that the economy is stable and growing at the same time. Understands individual economics. A person needs to understand the economic situations and stipulations present in his own life in order to grow economically. He definitely needs to understand the economic practices that he must follow to eradicate chances of going broke or bankrupt. Also, understanding of economics helps in using the resources in the best possible way and gaining maximum profit. 2. Production functions of a company in the short run and in the long run. The relationship between the production function and costs functions. Production equals transformation of inputs into outputs, or products. An input is a resource that a firm uses in its production process for the purpose of creating good or service. Production function equals inputs can be divided into fixed and variable inputs. The production function shows how inputs are changed into outputs. In the short run, fixed inputs are unchanged while variable inputs change. Indicates the highest output Q that a firm can produce for every specified combinations of inputs, physical relationship between inputs and output, while holding technology constant at some predetermined state. In production function, there is a relation of Q, output, L, labor, and K, capital. O output, number of units of the commodity produced. O labor, number of workers employed. O capital, amount of the equipment used in production. The short run is a time period in which the quantity of some inputs, called fixed factors, cannot be increased. Therefore, it doesn't correspond to a specific number of months or years. A fixed factor is usually an element of capital, such as plant and equipment. O capital is the fixed factor. O labor is variable factor. The short run is a time period where at least one factor of production is in fixed supply. A business has chosen its scale of production and must stick with this in the short run. We assume that the quantity of plant and machinery is fixed and that production can be altered by changing variable inputs such as labor, raw materials, and energy. The time periods used differ from one industry to another. For example, the short run in the electricity generation industry differs from local sandwich bars. If you are starting out in business with a new venture selling sandwiches and coffees to office workers, how long is your long run? It could be as short as a few days, enough time to lease a new van and a sandwich making machine. Law of diminishing returns states that, as more of a variable input is used, while all the other inputs are being kept the same, each additional unit of the variable input will eventually produce less and less additional output. The marginal product of the variable input declines. In the short run, the law of diminishing returns states that as we add more units of a variable input to fixed amounts of land and capital, the change in total output will at first rise and then fall. Diminishing returns to labor occurs when marginal product of labor starts to fall. This means that total output will be increasing at a decreasing rate. Long-run production returns to scale. In the long run, all factors of production are variable. How the output of a business responds to a change in factor inputs is called returns to scale. O increasing returns to scale occur when the percent change in output percent change in inputs. O decreasing returns to scale occur when the percent change in output percent change in inputs. O constant returns to scale occur when the percent change in output equals percent change in inputs. In the long run, businesses will be looking to find an output that combines labor and capital in a way that maximizes productivity and therefore reduces unit costs towards their lowest level. This may involve a process of capital-labor substitution where capital machinery and new technology replaces some of the labor input. The relationship between production function and cost function. The production function is the relation between output and inputs. It's called isoquant, and it is normally convex like an difference curve. The production function will be maximized when the ratio of marginal productivity is equal to the ratio of input prices. The cost function is the relation between total cost and output. The total cost curve can be normally minimized based on output. 3. Monopoly. Characteristics, causes of origin, equilibrium, consequences of behavior. Price discrimination. Monopoly power. Efficiency. Potential impact of price control of a monopoly. Characteristics of monopoly. 1. Profit maximizer. Company maximizes profit. 2. Price maker. Seller determines the price of the product and does so by controlling the quantity of the product in order to keep the demand high. 3. High barriers to entry. Other sellers are unable to enter the market. 4. Single seller. There is only one seller in the industry. 5. Price discrimination. Seller can change the quality and price of the product. Causes of monopoly. Natural monopoly arises when a single firm is the most efficient structure for production of a particular goods or service. Pure monopoly equals a business that controls all the competition and pricing within an industry. 1. Supplier, barriers to enter the market. 1. Natural. Natural causes, some minerals are accessible only in certain areas, SA has diamonds. 2. Technical. A firm might have control over scientific knowledge, know-how, secrets and formula which enable a monopolist to generate a commodity. 3. Legal. Patent rights. 4. Large amount of capital. All firms can't enter the field since they can't afford to invest such a big amount of capital. NAP. Railways, telecommunications. 5. State. Government will have the solitary right of producing and selling certain goods. NAP. Electina. Equilibrium. In monopoly, the equilibrium quantity is determined by setting the marginal revenue curve equal to the marginal cost curve. Consequences of monopoly. 1. Prices rise. 2. Consumers lose purchasing power. 3. Quality wanes. 4. Jobs aren't created. Price discrimination occurs when a firm charges different prices to different buyers for the same goods. Main aim of price discrimination is to increase the total revenue and/or profits of the supplier, helps them to offload excess capacity and take market share away from rivals. Examples: O cinemas and theaters cutting prices to attract younger and older audiences. O student discounts for rail travel, restaurant meals, and holidays. O car rental firms cutting prices at weekends. O hotels offering cheap weekend breaks and winter discounts. Monopoly power, degree of price setting power held by it. Supplier on the basis of its market share. Monopolists may choose to price at an output which maximizes profits, although a range of other objectives are possible. Price setting power equals in perfectly competitive markets. Firms are said to be price takers. Firms in imperfect competition can choose the price or output that they want, although they are constrained by the demand curve. Monopoly efficiency. The monopolist will sell a lesser quality of goods at a higher price than would companies by perfect competition. Potential impact of price control of a monopoly. Laws against monopolies cause more harm than good, but unnecessary monopolies should be countered by removing tariffs and other regulation that upholds monopolies. 4. Gross domestic product. Measurement methods. Makeup of GDP. Real and nominal GDP. Deflator of price index. Problems of measurement and international comparison of GDP. Macroeconomic identity. Gross domestic product is the total money value of all final goods and services produced within a nation's border within a year. It is used to gauge the health of a country's economy. Gross national product, total money value of all final goods and services produced by an economy within a given time, usually a year. Zairnyujayabkani/Firmati Dane Zemikri Podnakaji Jinda, GDP measurement methods, product approach. Calculates the market value of goods and services produced. GDP equals final sales plus change in business inventories, expenditure approach. Calculates the final spending on goods and services. GDP equals consumption plus business investment plus government purchases plus net exports, income approach. Sums the income received by all producers and households in the country. GDP equals RIPSA, rents plus interests plus profits plus statistical adjustments plus wages. Real GDP is a measure of output produced by an economy valued in the prices of the base year. To find the real level of output, real GDP, divide the current, nominal, level of output, money GDP, by the GDP price deflator index number for the current year, equals nominal GDP, is the GDP figure without adjustment for changes in price. GDP price deflator is a special price index used to convert money GDP into real GDP. Shows the percentage change in cost of the market basket from the base year. Contains all final goods and services produced in our economy. Equals times 100 price index number, records the percentage change in the price of a selected combination of goods compared to the base year, is a measure of the average price index. Problems of measuring the GDP. 1. GDP omits production of goods that is not sold, childcare by parents etc. 2. GDP has an imperfect estimate of gray/illegal economy. 3. Special measurement problems, paying a rent for a house versus owning it, and government estimates a rent to be calculated into GDP. 4. Technology price depreciation connected with customer taste change is not calculated in GDP. For example, as more people started using cellular phones, the cost of supplying this service went down and so has price. In the real GDP, the value of these services is measured using old, higher prices, overstating the increase in the value of production. International comparison of GDP, using currency exchange rate, might be inaccurate, Using purchasing power parity, PPP, it asks how much money would be needed to purchase the same goods and services in two countries, and uses that to calculate an implicit foreign exchange rate, NAP. Big Mac Index, total GDP, GDP per capita, GDP growth rate 5. Money. Definition and function of money. Demand for money. Production of money and money supply. Money market equilibrium and transmission mechanism. Quantity theory of money and money neutrality. Money and inflation. http://faculty.washington.edu/danby/notes/notes11.html Money, definition, money is anything that is universally accepted as medium of exchange in an economy. Money function, since money is universally accepted as a means of payment, it acquires some additional functions. Money functions as one medium of exchange or means of payment. This is the first and primary definition of money. 2. Unit of account. Money can be used as a measure of value. We account for the total value of all the transactions undertaken in an economy in terms of monetary units. 3. Store of value. This means that I can sell some good or service today, and receive money for it. I can keep the money and thus store the value received from my sale for a while. Then, later, I can use the money to purchase a good or service. Why do we use money instead of barter? Once you have larger and more complex economies, it is very inconvenient to try and arrange all the exchanges one needs through such mechanisms. Barter requires a double coincidence of wants. Demand for money tells how much money will the people hold in currency or in checkable deposits at each interest rate. Demand for money is a question of how much of your wealth you wish to hold in the form of money at any point in time. Money demand rises with the nominal income and falls with the interest rate. Production of money, related to reserves in banks. 1. Let's start with the commercial bank we set up earlier, which is fully lent, i.e. it has lent as much as it can, and therefore has no excess reserves. 2. Now suppose that the reserve requirement is lowered to from 10% to 5%. Our bank then faces the following situation. 3. If it wants to make as much profit as possible, it will seek once again to be fully lent, meaning that it will lend out the 25 in excess reserves. The bank locates a worthy borrower and negotiates the loan. To actually make the loan, it creates a new deposit for the borrower on the liability side, and books the loan on the asset side. But the above situation won't last longer than a day or two, because the borrower is borrowing because it needs to use the money. So the borrower then draws the loan by withdrawing the new deposit, which the bank pays by using the excess reserves. This then is the final balance sheet for our bank. See, while this is the end of the story for one bank, it's not the end of the story for the banking system. That 25 lent to the new borrower will be used to buy something. G. Snabely Lumber uses it to buy a new truck, so it ends up in the account of the truck dealer. So in another bank somewhere, there is now a new deposit of 25. 4. Therefore, the new deposit of 25 raises the money supply by 25. When that bank gets the new deposit, it puts 1.25 aside as reserves and lends the remaining 23.75 out. The 23.75 is used to buy something and ends up as a deposit in another bank. So that new deposit of 23.75 raises the money supply by 23.75. Money supply is the narrow M1 definition and consists of currency in circulation and any checkable deposits, is the total amount of monetary assets available in an economy at a specific time. Money market equilibrium. Equilibrium will occur whenever the interest rate stops changing. Any changes in the supply and demand for money will tend to raise or lower interest rates. For example, increased demand for money will tend to increase interest rates. Money transmission policy. The transmission mechanism of monetary policy is the process by which interest rate changes affect inflation. The transmission mechanism is basically a three-stage process. 1. Change in the official interest rate. 2. All these changes in markets will affect the spending patterns of consumers and firms' effect on demand. 3. Impact of the demand change on GDP and inflation. Quantity theory of money. In monetary economics, the quantity theory of money is the theory that money supply has a direct, proportional relationship with the price level. For example, if the currency in circulation increased, there would be a proportional increase in the price of goods. Neutrality of money is the idea that a change in the stock of money affects only nominal variables in the economy such as prices, wages, and exchange rates, with no effect on real, inflation-adjusted, variables like employment, real GDP, and real consumption. Money and inflation. Inflation is a rise in the general level of prices of goods and services in an economy over a period of time. If there is an inflation, the demand for money should rise. 6. Monetary policy. Aims and instruments. Modes of monetary policy. Independence of central bank. Disinflationary monetary policy. Monetary policy, interest rates, open MKT ops, discount windows, currency peg, reserve. Is a tool used by central banks, governments, to affect the economy, geared towards influencing the interest rates. Main instrument of monetary policy is the short-term interest rate. Central banks have a variety of techniques for influencing interest rates. They are all designed to affect the cost of money. If they can affect interest rates, it can also affect consumers and firms' behavior. Aims: promoting economic growth and stability. Instruments: reserve requirements, discount/interest rate, bond sales, monetary base. Modes of monetary policy. These are sets of instruments, monetary, financial, and other, and procedures to handle monetized transactions. Tight monetary policy. Contractionary. Supply of credit decreases, its cost increases. Implementation by raising reserve requirements, increasing the discount rate, selling bonds. Loose monetary policy. Expansionary, disinflatory. Supply of credit increases and the cost falls. Attempt to encourage an economic growth. Implementation by lowering reserve requirements, reducing the discount rate, buying bonds. Effects of changes in the interest rates on the economy. 1. The change in the cost of borrowing will affect spending decisions. Rise in rates makes savings more attractive, reduces spending, consumption and investment. 2. The change in rates affects the cash flow of borrowers. It affects the ones with floating interest rate assets or liabilities, NAP. Mortgage rodini buduplativik, nebuditalicutrasid. 3. The change in the rate is likely to impact on the economy through the exchange rate. A rise in domestic rates will tend to result in a net inflow of capital, increasing the demand for CZK and appreciating the exchange rate. Independence of central bank. Manages a state's currency, money supply, and interest rates, oversees the commercial banking system of their countries. Possesses a monopoly on increasing the amount of money in the nation, prints the national currency, which usually serves as the nation's legal tender. Independent from political interference. The primary function of a central bank is to manage the nation's money supply. Supervisory powers intended to prevent bank run. 7. Fiscal policy. Public budgets. Budget deficit and public debt. Automatic stabilizers. http://faculty.washington.edu/danby/notes/notes910.html number sign 3 Fiscal policy, government taxes, spendings, debt. It is the use of the national budget as an economic tool to stabilize the economy, use of the state budget to achieve macroeconomic objectives such as full employment or low inflation. Especially with taxation and borrowing, it's the means by which a government adjusts its levels of spending in order to monitor and influence a nation's economy. It is the sister strategy to monetary policy with which a central bank influences the nation's money supply. These changes can affect the following macroeconomic variables in an economy: aggregate demand and the level of economic activity, the distribution of income, the pattern of resource allocation within the government sector and relative to the private sector. Public budgets, a plan for financing an enterprise or government during a definite period, which is prepared and submitted by a responsible executive to a representative body whose approval and authorization are necessary before the plan may be executed. 4 phases of preparing a budget: 1. Policy planning and resource analysis, revenue estimation. 2. Policy formulation, negotiation, and planning of the budget formation. 3. Implementation and revision of budgeted policy. 4. Auditing and evaluating the entire process and system. Direct taxes on individuals and firms, e.g. income taxes. Indirect taxes. VAT budget deficit. What happens when the government runs a deficit, that is when spending's taxes? It borrows money. Another way of saying the same thing is that it sells securities. It is called the deficit. Deficit budget occurs when government spends more than it collects in taxes. Balanced budget results when tax collections and government spending are equal. Surplus budget results when the government collects more in taxes than it spends. Equals plus, cyclical deficit equals result of a downturn in economic activity. Structural deficit equals would exist even if the economy were operating at full employment. Deficits might be useful for 1. Counter-cyclical policy. 2. Capital expenditures, highways etc. Crowding out effect equals occurs when deficit spending by government increases interest rates and reduces investment. Public debt is the total amount the government owes to its creditors. Automatic stabilizers describes how modern government budget policies, particularly income taxes and welfare spending, act to dampen fluctuations in cyclical economy fluctuations, such as unemployment compensation and the progressive income tax structure, tend to move the level of income toward the full employment level and help smooth out the business cycle. 8. Successful entrepreneur and common mistakes: choosing a bad business opportunity, wrong customer, wrong product/service. Entrepreneur, someone who starts a new business, independent on age, gender, nationality, citizenship, race, religion. Successful entrepreneur is someone who satisfies customers' needs better, faster, and/or cheaper than someone else, has the right skills and temperament and can apply those qualities in the business entrepreneurship process of building a business. Cost: amount of money it costs you to meet customers' needs. Fixed, independent on production, rent, insurance. Variable, dependent on production, electricity. Profit equals money received, costs customer, anyone with unmet needs who has enough money to pay someone else to satisfy those needs. 8. Common mistakes. 1. Choosing a bad business opportunity. Answer 7 Ws. What can I sell? Whom can I sell? Why will customers buy from me? At what price? What are the costs? When will customers buy? What will the competition do? You are looking for a good business opportunity, not a good idea. Good business opportunity satisfies customer needs and customer is willing to pay immediately to satisfy those needs. Monitor the competition, research the market. BEP analysis: how many products in order to achieve profit equals margin of safety, how much can the sales fall before a loss occurs equals multi-product CVP analysis, to determine BEP for multiple products. 2. Choosing a wrong customer. 3 segments: top priority, timing is critical, price is not important; high priority, likely to make a purchase in the near future; medium priority, price is important, time is not important. How to find how probability prospects. Primary research: ask people directly, surveys. Secondary research: acquire info from sources that did their own research. Watch the demand curve and price elasticity, the graph depicting the relationship between the price of a certain commodity and the amount of it that consumers are willing and able to purchase at that given price. 3. Choosing a wrong product/service, deliver the most value with low cost and high profit equals how you differ from competition. What makes the product valuable? Lowest price on the market, product easy to use, providing the best guarantee on the market. The longer it takes to get the product to the market, the less success. Listen to the feedback. 4. Wrong pricing. 5. Not selling fast enough, not enough amount. 6. Not executing well. 7. HR problems 8. Mismanagement of growth 9. Pricing, price elasticity, pricing techniques, cost and competition orientated, pricing, costs set the lower limit of prices, the market, and demand set the upper limit, pricing in different types of markets, pure competition, oligopoly, monopoly etc. Price elasticity of demand, measure of responsiveness of quantity demanded when there is a change in price equals percent equals times 0 drug, perfectly inelastic demands, change in price makes no difference in QD, life-saving 0 to 1 inelastic demand, change in QD is smaller than change in price, gas, eggs, water, 1 unitary elasticity, change in QD is the same as change in price, example with sold ice cream, 1 elastic demand, QD changes more than the price does, chocolate, perfectly elastic, complete collapse of QD. Price elasticity of income, measure of responsiveness of demand for goods when there is a change in income, if income goes up, the demand for goods goes up, inferior goods O if income rises, demand for this goods falls equals percent O if income falls, demand for this goods rises plus normal goods, demand changes in the same direction as our income, inferior goods, demand changes in the opposite direction than income. 1 income elastic 1 income inelastic, 1% change in income will cause 0,5% change. In the demand pricing strategies, survival O cover VC and FC O keep low prices to stay in the business O suitable for start UPS, profit objective O choose the price that creates maximum profit O set a target return or markup, volume objective O use pricing to increase volume O market share O high obstacle for competitors, quality objective O high prices to cover R&D, branding, O develop image of exclusivity cost oriented strategy 1, cost plus / markup, determine the costs and then add a plus factor. Fixed amount or percent suitable for resellers and easy administration and easy application, ignores customers and easy to calculate, ignores competitors and requires minimal information. 2, return on assets, desired minimum return. The firm determines the price that will generate a specified target rate of return on assets. Used by market leaders. 3, marginal cost pricing, setting a product's price equal to the additional, marginal, cost of producing one more unit of output. Producer charges an amount equal to the cost of the additional economic resources and to maintain a low selling price and keep business running during a period of poor sales. Competition-oriented strategy 1, going rate, price is based on usual / average market price most common with alike products such as meat, steel etc. Goal, to have the average price charged by all firms in the industry. 2, sealed bid, price quotes solicited. When firms compete for contracts based on expectations of the competitor's price rather than own costs. 3, value-based, price based on value to the customer and his demand, not the actual cost plus most profitable if set right. Beer at a festival, fashion etc. 4, for profit strategies. A economy, low price, low quality. B penetration, low price, high quality. C premium, high price, high quality. D scheming, low quality, high price equals high volume equals volume, selling enough to penetrate, equals profit. And image, shoes, equals initial volume and profit. New technology, price discrimination, selling the same product to different buyers, or groups of buyers, at different prices. Student, senior, new buyer discounts etc. 10. Investment decision, techniques, payback period, net present value, profitability index, internal rate of return. Investment decision, requires analysis of future cash flows, degree of uncertainty associated. CF, value of these. CF considering the level of uncertainty, motivation, replacement, expansion, cost reduction, safety and environmental aspects. Mutually exclusive projects, selection of one project requires rejection of the others, must be identified because it influences the choice of correct evaluation technique. Independent project, acceptance of one project doesn't require to reject other projects. Capital rationing, Sestavany criteria, Dara Musi Dana Business Opportunity Split, Abaidu Toho Spoleknas Sla. The act of placing restrictions on the amount of investments by a company requires looking at all possible combinations of a project in order to maximize the owner's wealth. May result in rejecting profitable projects. Investment profile, illustration of a project's NPV at various discount rates, Jako Kivka v Grafu, selecting the best method. The best method to apply is the NPV, but in many cases the and NPV provide identical accept/reject decisions. In practice, many firms continue to use the technique, though the NPV method is gaining in importance. Many firms use more than one technique process of investment decision making. 1. Determine investment funds available, capital rationing. 2. Identify profitable project opportunities. 3. Define and classify proposed projects. 4. Evaluate proposed projects. 5. Approve projects. 6. Monitor and control the project's required rate of return equals the return that owners demand to compensate them for the time value of money tied up in their investments and the uncertainty of the future CF from this investment. Average rate of return equals average profit that will be generated by the investment per year equals % plus easy interpretation, ignores the time factor. Payback period equals how long will it take to get the initial investment back equals the speed that money comes to you. Acceptable project must be paid back within the PP, select the one with the shortest PP plus simple to calculate, ignores time value of money plus easy to understand, ignores CF beyond PP plus measure of liquidity, no objective decision criteria, calculation, discounted payback period equals how long will it take to get the initial investment back in terms of discounted cash flows plus considers the time value of money, ignores CF beyond PP plus considers risk, no objective decision criteria, only adds present value formula in the calculations. Net present value equals difference between PV of future cash flow and PV of future cash outflow equals times 1 plus, NPV must be positive. The higher the NPV is, the better. Plus considers time value of money plus considers risk plus considers all cash flows plus objective decision criteria, difficult interpretation. Profitability index, benefit cost ratio, equals ratio of payoff, present value of the future cash flows divided by the initial investment, equals 1, 1. Plus considers all CF plus considers time value of money plus useful when capital is rationed, difficult to interpret, incorrect decision when comparing mutually exclusive project. Internal rate of return equals used in capital budgeting to measure and compare the profitability of investments equals the discount rate that causes the NPV to be equal to 0 equals at what interest rate will the NPV of the cash inflows equal to 0? Highest should be selected equals plus 1 plus times 2, 1 plus time value plus risk plus all cash flows. Incorrect decision when deciding among mutually exclusive projects. Crossover rate equals the discount rate at which the NPV of two projects are equal 1, calculate the difference in projects CF2, take those differences and calculate its 3, that's the crossover rate. 11. Financing, internal, external, debt, equity, personal sources, sale of share, angel investors, venture capital, factoring, bank overdraft, mortgages, bond, bill of exchange, trade credit, lease financing. A business, usually combination of different financial sources, retained earnings, earnings reinvested into the company, internal, asset redeployment, sale of inventory or unprofitable subsidiary, internal, depreciation, decrease in value of assets over time, internal, time-based. Straight line, declining balance, volume produced based, units of activity, long versus short-term financing, fixed capital, amount of capital tied up in the capital assets used to purchase the fixed assets. Working capital, used to support the normal short-term operations. Capital structure is reported in the balance sheet. Long-term financing means greater importance of the time value. Internal versus external financing, internal, what the company earns, equals retained earnings. Depreciation, external, Sources are lenders and investors outside the company. Issuance of debt or equity, also called outside financing. Equity versus debt financing. Equity, money acquired from the business owners or other investors. No interest. Usually a part of business. If financial sources are external. Equity financing involves selling a portion of the company, selling shares or ownership interest, in order to receive funds. Debt financing with a loan. Repaid with interest. Lender doesn't own a part of the business. Expensive, usually. Sources of financing. Accrued liabilities, internal, have occurred but have not been paid yet. Rent, wages, sales tax. Appear on balance sheet despite not being paid yet. Firms have a little control over them. Personal resources, external source of equity financing. Mostly for start ups, personal savings, loans. Interest free. Sale of share, external sale of company's ownership. Medium/long-term financing. Ordinary, variable dividends, voting rights, risk capital. Future growth, operating costs. Preference, fixed dividends, low risk, no vote, lower rate of return. Business angel, angel investor, a person which provides capital for a business startup. Gets ownership. Invests own funds. Large risk, great return. Venture capitalist firm, investment company that invests in potentially profitable ventures. Typically in growing businesses. Investment into medium-sized companies. Medium/long-term financing. Trade credit equals credit by suppliers. Supplier allows the customer a period before he expects the payment. When suppliers agree with paying later for the goods. Splatnost. Short-term, lease, contract between the owner, lessor, of a specific asset, and another party, lessee, allowing the latter to hire the assets. Finance lease transfers all risks/rewards of the ownership to the lessee. Operating lease risks/rewards stay with the owner/leaser, usually short-term, easily obtained, compared to other LT forms of financing. Reasonable cost, flexibility, sale and leaseback. Business raises its finances by selling an asset to a financial institution. The asset is then leased back to the original seller. Plus source of immediate cash, loss of any future capital appreciation. Factoring, business sells its receivables to a third party, factor, with a discount, and seller, factor, debtor, improves CF, reduces administration overheads. Bank overdraft, a company may borrow money at any time up to the established limit. Short-term and flexible, expensive, term loans, loan for a specific amount of money with a set repayment schedule. Financing of equipment with an economically useful life, mortgage. Long-term loan with a real asset as a collateral. Chattel mortgage. Movitos/Jine Jako Zastava. A real estate mortgage. Nemovitos Jako Zastava, bond, an interest-bearing security issued by governments, companies, banks etc. Long-term, 20 years or so. Fixed interest rate, bill of exchange, SMCA. An order in writing addressed by one person to another person, who has to pay on a demand or at a fixed date. Short-term lease versus purchase decision, for the same cash inflows 1. Find after-tax cash outflows after each year for both lease and purchase 2. Calculate PV of those cash outflows 3. Choose the best option. Trade-offs in selecting between debt and equity. Potential profitability. Debt is good as long as the return on asset is bigger than the cost of the debt. Financial risk, debt is risky. Voting control, debt increases the risk but keeps the owner's control. 12 Accounting statements, financial analysis, liquidity, stability, activity, profitability ratios. Financial analysis equals use of financial statements and ratios to monitor and evaluate the financial performance and position of a business. Equals selection, evaluation, and interpretation of financial data and other pertinent data in business. Uses historical accounting data to predict the firm's future. Financial analyst determines which data is needed and how to use it. Horizontal, vertical and financial ratio analysis. Horizontal analysis equals comparing the same item on the balance sheet from different periods, examines the changes of one single item over time, calculation of trend percentage, base year equals 100% vertical analysis, relationship of one item with another on the statement, in the same year, common size statements, all items are expressed as a percentage of the net sales amount, benchmarking, measuring firms' products/services/activities against other best performing firms. Ratio analysis, classification according to aspects of operating performance and financial condition, O liquidity ratios, O stability ratios, O activity ratios, O profitability ratios. Liquidity ratios provide measures of the firm's ability to pay its short-term obligations. 1. Current ratio, firm's ability to satisfy its current liabilities with its current assets equals 2. Quick ratio, firm's ability to satisfy current liabilities with its most liquid assets. 1.0 or higher. Equals 3. Cash ratio, ratio below 0.4 indicates cash flow problems. Equals stability ratios, financial leverage, provide information on the firm's fixed financing obligations and its ability to satisfy these financing obligations, indicators of long-run solvency and stability. 1. Debt to assets ratio, proportions of assets that are financed by debt equals 2. Debt to equity ratio, indicates relative uses of debt and equity as sources of capital to finance the firm's assets equals 3. Equity multiplier, measure of leverage. The higher it is, the more is the company relying on debt to finance its assets. Equals activity ratios equals information on the firm's ability to manage its resources, assets, efficiently. Mostly turnover ratios. 1. Inventory turnover, indicates how many times is the inventory created and sold during the period equals 2. Inventory period, how long it takes to turn inventory over on average equals 365. 3. Receivables turnover, measures how effectively is the firm managing its accounts receivable equals profitability ratios equals provide information on the amount of income from sales, profitability is the rate of return to capital achieved by the firm. 1. Gross profit margin, measures the percent of revenue remaining after paying all direct production costs equals 2. Net profit margin, how effective the firm is at cost control. The higher the net profit margin is, the more effective is the company at converting revenue into actual profit equals 3. Return on sales, measure of firm's profitability. 4. Return on assets, return on equity. 13. Costing, total/average/marginal costs, cost classification, direct versus indirect, manufacturing and non-manufacturing, relevant versus irrelevant, opportunity, sunk, cost, and expenditure incurred during achieving a goal. Profit, cost behavior, relationship between change in cost and change in activity equals managerial goal is to reduce costs, cost object, something of which we are examining the cost, product, service etc., cost center, area within an organization where the costs are examined. Accounting department. Variable costs, cost which changes in direct proportion to changes in production. O material, fuel, workers' wages. Fixed costs, not immediately affected by changes in production. O rent, insurance, interest on loans, energies. Total costs, all the costs for producing a product/service equals plus average costs, expenditure incurred by an organization expressed as a TC rate per unit of production equals, long-run average costs. O internal economies of scale cost advantages from the company growth. O external economies of scale cost advantages from the growth of the industry sector. Marginal costs, additional costs for producing one additional unit, would be avoided if the unit was not produced / would increase if one extra unit was produced. Equals incremental costs, additional cost resulting from a group of additional units of an output. Direct versus indirect costs, direct costs, are economically identified to a cost object. Prime costs. O material, assembly wages etc., metal, indirect costs, cannot be economically identified to a cost object. Overhead costs. O rent, insurance, repair of machine etc. O POSGSE Rozpasataji na Kazdi product. Manufacturing versus non-manufacturing costs, manufacturing costs, directly associated with the Manufacturing process O material plus labor plus expenses equals prime cost plus manufacturing overheads equals total manufacturing costs. O example, depreciation of machinery in multi-product company, non-manufacturing costs, costs that are incurred outside the production process. O sales plus administrative plus interest expenses plus R&D equals total manufacturing costs. Relevant versus irrelevant costs equals for decision making. Costs can be classified according to whether they are relevant to a particular decision. Relevant costs, avoidable costs are relevant in a decision-making process for the future. O meaningful for our decisions in the future. Irrelevant costs, costs that do not relate to the managerial decision. Example, choice of going by car or by public transport. Opportunity costs equals the loss of potential gain from other alternatives when one alternative is chosen. The cost of an alternative that is given up when a choice is made, the cost for not choosing the second best alternative. Naptim, ze. Se klov grozhodnijit v serdukina, sez baby moznosti v ten sami koperkovid peskazavid labat penise. Tato neziskanums de je naklatum obtovanum pilzadostijit dukina. Sunk costs, costs that were already acquired and cannot be changed by any decision that will be made in the future. Nap. Market research you can't get the money spent for that back and it doesn't matter if you continue the project or not, R&D etc. 14. Management characteristics and management theory evolution, particular schools major principles and its implications. Management, the process of dealing with or controlling things or people, the responsibility for and control of a company or similar organization. Management is the art of getting things done by a group of people with the effective utilization of resources. Planning, organizing, directing and controlling characteristics of management. 1. Continuous and never-ending process. 2. Getting things done through people. 3. Result-oriented science and art. 4. Multidisciplinary in nature. 5. A group and not an individual activity. 6. Follows established principles or rules. 7. Aided but not replaced by computers. 8. Situational in nature. 9. Need not be an ownership. 10. Both an art and science. 11. Management is all-pervasive. 12. Management is intangible. 13. Uses a professional approach in work. 14. Dynamic in nature. Management is an activity, is concerned with the efficient utilization of human and non-human resources of production. Invisible force, its existence can be felt through the enterprise or institution it is managing. Goal-oriented, it aims to achieve some definite goals and objectives. Effective management is always management by objectives. Managers and other personnel officers apply their knowledge, experience, and skills to achieve the desired objectives. Accomplishment through the efforts of others, managers cannot do everything themselves. They get work accomplished through the efforts of others. Universal activity, management is required in all types or organizations. Wherever there are some activities, there is management. The basic principles of management are universal and can be applied anywhere and in every field, such as business, social, religious, cultural, sports, administration, educational, politics or military. Art as well as science, it is a science as it has an organized body of knowledge which contains certain universal truths, and an art as managing requires certain skills which apply more or less in every situation. Multidisciplinary knowledge, it contains principles drawn from many social sciences like psychology, sociology etc. Management is distinct from ownership. In modern times, there is a divorce of management from ownership. Today, big corporations are owned by a vast number of shareholders while their management is in the hands of paid, qualified, competent and experienced managerial personnel. Need at all levels, according to the nature of task and scope of authority, management is needed at all levels of the organization, i.e., top level, middle and lower level. Integrated process, it integrates the men, machine, and material to carry out the operations of the enterprise efficiently and successfully. This integrating process is result-oriented. Management theory evolution, The driving force behind the evolution of management theory is the search for better ways to utilize organizational resources. Scientific management, an early 20th century school of management thought concerned primarily with the physical efficiency of an individual worker. O develops standards for a job. O selects workers with appropriate abilities. O importance of employee selection and training to increase productivity. O provides wage incentives. Money as motivation. Administrative management, 1916. The process of getting things done through people, importance is given to groups and not to individuals. Focuses on managers and the functions they perform. Henri Fayol. 1. Division of work. 4. Subordination of individual to discipline, interest to general interest. 3. Authority and responsibility. 5. Remuneration. 6. Centralization. 7. Order. 8. Equity. 9. Initiative. 10. Esprit de corps. 11. Stability of tenure. 12. Unity of direction. 13. Scalar chain. And 14. Unity of command. Behavioral management. Successful management depends on the manager's ability to understand and work with people with various background, hopes, desires, and expectation. Behavioral is based on the behavior of the employee. Activities that behavior management do is, involving other co-workers in discussion and asking their option, letting an employee go early because of his pregnant wife, etc. O human relations perspective. O jobs should be designed to meet higher level needs by allowing workers to use their full potential. Contingency view management, what works in one setting might not work in another environment. The best managerial approach is dependent on key variables in a given situation. Systemic approach, an approach to problem solving that attacks complex systems by breaking them down into smaller elements. The system approach to management views the organizations as a unified, purposeful system composed of integral parts. This approach gives managers a way of looking at the organization as a whole and as a part of the larger external environment. Systems theory tells us that the activity of any segment of an organization affects, in varying degree, the activity of every other segment. Production managers in a manufacturing plant, for example, prefer long uninterrupted production runs of standardized products in order to maintain maximum efficiency and low costs. 15. Managers and management, organization and management, the company, its governance structure and management, levels of management in an organization, core activities of managers and management process. Organization, the employees must work in close coordination with each other and try their level best to achieve the organization's goals. Organization management helps to extract the best out of each employee so that they accomplish the tasks within the given time frame. Organization management binds the employees together and gives them a sense of loyalty towards the organization. Organization and management, the art of getting people together on a common platform to make them work towards a common predefined goal, enables the optimum use of resources through good planning and control at the workplace. Organization management gives a sense of direction to the employees, and effective management ensures profitability for the organization. Core activities of managers. 1. Planning. Prepare an effective business plan. It is essential to decide on the future course of action to avoid confusions later on. Plan out how you intend to do things too. Organizing refers to the judicious use of resources to achieve the best out of the employees. 3. Staffing. Poor organization management leads to unhappy employees who eventually create problems for themselves as well as the organization. 4. Leading. The managers or superiors must set clear targets for the team members. 5. Control. The superiors must be aware of what is happening around them. Hierarchies should be well defined for an effective management. 6. Time management. Effective time management helps the employees to do the right thing at the right time. 7. Motivation. Motivation goes a long way in binding the employees together. Appreciating the employees for their good work or lucrative incentive schemes go a long way in motivating the employees and make them work for a longer span of time. Corporate governance. It is a term that refers broadly to the rules, processes, or laws by which businesses are operated, regulated, and controlled. The term can refer to internal factors defined by the officers, stockholders, or constitution of a corporation, as well as to external forces such as consumer groups, clients, and government regulations. Levels of management in an organization. Top level of management. It consists of board of directors, chief executive, or managing director. The top management is the ultimate source of authority and it manages goals and policies for an enterprise. It devotes more time on planning and coordinating functions. Middle level of management. The branch managers and departmental managers constitute middle level. They are responsible to the top management for the functioning of their department. They devote more time to organizational and directional functions. In small organization, there is only one layer of middle level of management, but in big enterprises, there may be senior and junior middle level management. Lower level of management. Lower level is also known as supervisory/operative level of management. It consists of supervisors, foremen, section officers, superintendent, etc. Supervisory management refers to those executives whose work has to be largely with personal oversight and direction of operative employees. In other words, they are concerned with direction and controlling function of management. 16. Motivation, work, and career. Key variables in individual behavior, reward systems, and salary structures, careers and management development. Motivation, the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. The general desire or willingness of someone to do something. Motivation is the word derived from the word motive, which means needs, desires, wants or drives within the individuals. It is the process of stimulating people to actions to accomplish the goals. In the work goal context, the psychological factors stimulating the people's behavior can be o desire for money, o success, o recognition, o job satisfaction, o teamwork, etc. Motivation at work. Important function of management is to create willingness amongst the employees to perform in the best of their abilities. Therefore, the role of a leader is to arouse interest in performance of employees in their jobs. The process of motivation consists of 3 stages. O. A felt need or drive. O. A stimulus in which needs have to be aroused. O. When needs are satisfied, the satisfaction or accomplishment of goals. Therefore, we can say that motivation is a psychological phenomenon, which means needs and wants of the individuals have to be tackled by framing an incentive plan. Reward system at work. 4 main tasks motivate employees to 1. Perform effectively. 2. Join the organization. 3. Come to work. 4. Motivate individuals by indicating their position in the organization structure. Effective reward system. O. Employees must have preference for the type of rewards being offered. Many employees prefer cash reward and plagues. Some employees like to see their name in company newsletter. Others like the public recognition surrounding award ceremony. O. Make the reward system simple to understand if it is to be used effectively. O. Lay down performance standards within the control of the team. O. Make the reward system fair and effective. O. Ensure participation in the reward system. O. Involve people in the reward process and empower them to do the needful. Salary structure, competency-related pay, skill-based pay, team-based rewards, profit sharing, employee benefits. Management development is a process by which managers learn and improve their skills not only to benefit themselves but also their employing organizations. O. Dysfunction analysis. O. Mentoring. O. Coaching. O. Job rotation. O. Professional development. O. Business workflow analysis. O. Upward feedback. O. Executive education. O. Supervisory training. 17. Structuring tasks for groups and individuals. Structuring tasks and design of functions, organizational principles, relations and authorities, centralization and decentralization, scope of management control, organization in development. Organizational structure. Organizational structure is the skeleton of an organization. It is an expression of who is performing the various functions and tasks of a company and how these people relate to one another. Organizational structure encompasses a list of the various job positions, titles, and duties of a business, and the reporting structure or chain of command among them. Structure is a statement of the current state of affairs, not the ideals, intentions, or betterment of organizations. Organizational structure does not include shoulds. Types of the organizational authorities: function of authority, directing the human beings to serve for the united objective, for fulfilling the purpose of the organization. Three main types: one-line authority, fundamental authority within an organization, production and sales managers, responsible for attaining the organization's goals as efficiently as possible. Gives order concerning the production, sales, or finance-related behavior of subordinates to. Staff authority refers to the power to give advice, support, and service to line departments. Staff managers do not command others. Examples of staff authority are found in personnel, purchasing, engineering, and finance. Right to advise or assist to line authority as well as other staff personnel. Line and staff personnel must work together closely to maintain the efficiency and effectiveness of the organization. Enables those responsible for improving the effectiveness of line personnel to perform their required tasks. 3. Functional authority consists of the right to give orders within a segment of the organization in which this right is normally non-existent. Assigned to individuals to complement the line or staff authority they already possess. Authority will be accepted only under the following conditions: O. The individual can understand the order being communicated. O. The individual believes the order is consistent with the purpose of the organization. O. The individual sees the order as compatible with his or her personal interests. O. The individual is mentally and physically able to comply with the order. Relations of authority, e.g. a plant manager has line authority over each immediate subordinate, human resource manager, the production manager and the sales manager. The human resource manager possesses the right to advise the plant manager on human resource matters. Still, final decisions concerning human resource matters are in the hands of the plant manager, the person holding the line authority. Centralization and decentralization, where decision-making power resides in the organizational structure. Decision-making is about authority. A key question is whether authority should rest with senior management at the center of a business, centralized, or whether it should be delegated further down the hierarchy, away from the center, decentralized. Most large businesses involve a degree of decentralization when it starts to operate from several locations or it adds new business units and markets. The issue is really how much independence do business units or groups within a business have when it comes to the key decisions. Centralized structures. Businesses that have a centralized structure keep decision-making firmly at the top of the hierarchy, amongst the most senior management. Fast food businesses like Burger King, Pizza Hut, and McDonald's use a predominantly centralized structure to ensure that control is maintained over their many thousands of outlets. The need to ensure consistency of customer experience and quality at every location is the main reason. Advantages. Disadvantages. Easier to implement common policies and practices for the business as a whole. More bureaucratic, often extra layers in the hierarchy prevents other parts of the business from becoming too independent. Local or junior managers are likely to much closer to customer needs. Easier to coordinate and control from the center, e.g. with budgets. Lack of authority down the hierarchy may reduce manager motivation. Economies of scale and overhead savings. Easier to achieve customer service does not benefit from flexibility and speed in local decision-making. Greater use of specialization. Quicker decision-making, usually, easier to show strong leadership. Decentralized structures. Decision-making is spread out to include more junior managers in the hierarchy, as well as individual business units or trading locations. Hotel chains are particularly keen on using decentralized structures so that local hotel managers are empowered to make on-the-spot decisions to handle customer problems or complaints. Advantages. Disadvantages. Decisions are made closer to the customer. Decision-making is not necessarily strategic. Better able to respond to local circumstances. More difficult to ensure consistent practices and policies. Customers might prefer consistency from location to location. Improved level of customer service. May be some diseconomies of scale, e.g. duplication of roles consistent with aiming for a flatter hierarchy who provides strong leadership when needed, e.g. in a crisis. Good way of training and developing junior management. Harder to achieve. Tight financial control. Risk of cost overruns should improve staff motivation. 18. Organizational structures, typology, principles of design. What is organizational structure? An organizational structure consists of activities such as task allocation, coordination, and supervision, which are directed towards the achievement of organizational aims. An organization can be structured in many different ways, depending on their objectives. The structure of an organization will determine the modes in which it operates and performs. A wrong organizational structure may hamper cooperation and thus hinder the completion of orders in due time and within limits of resources and budgets. Organizational structures shall be adaptive to process requirements, aiming to optimize the ratio of effort and input to output. Horizontal versus vertical structure dictates who is in a position of authority, how work is divided, and how employees are assigned duties. Both horizontal and vertical organizational structures have advantages and disadvantages. Vertical, O power emanating from the top down. O well-defined chain of command with a vertical organization. O person at the top of the organizational chart has the most power. O employees report to the person directly above them, and efficient, quick decisions. Responsibility lies with people highest in the chain of command and clearly defined duties, and each position involves specialized tasks. Rigid, with many rules, employees feel their input isn't important. Horizontal, O less defined chain of command. O employees across lines have similar input into how the organization is run. O instead of each person having clearly defined duties, employees may work in teams, with everyone on the team having input. O employees may perform many different functions and may report to several supervisors, rather than a single boss. O project managers or team leaders report to a team of supervisors, with members of each team being essentially equal in terms of power. Plus fewer rules, employees have more power, employee satisfaction, and employees have stronger sense of identification with the company. Less efficient, taking more time and resources to make decisions. Workers in horizontal organizations have to learn more skills, increases job stress. Pre-bureaucratic structure, entrepreneurial, most common in smaller organizations and is best used to solve simple tasks. Lacks standardization of tasks, totally centralized, small scale, start-up companies. The strategic leader makes all key decisions and most communication is done by one-on-one conversations. Bureaucratic structure, certain degree of standardization. When the organizations grow complex and large, bureaucratic structures are required for management, suitable for tall organizations. Precision, speed, unambiguity, strict subordination, reduction of material and personal costs. O clear defined roles and responsibilities. O a hierarchical structure. O respect for merit. Post-bureaucratic structures still inherit the strict hierarchies, but open to more modern ideas and methodologies, techniques such as total quality management, TQM, culture management, and matrix management. People with similar skills are pooled for work assignments. Functional structure, employees within the functional divisions of an organization tend to perform a specialized set of tasks. Engineering department would be staffed only with software engineers. Efficiencies within the group, possible lack of communication within the organization, best suited as a producer of standardized goods and services at large volume and low-cost. Divisional structure, groups each organizational function into a division. Each division contains all the necessary resources and functions within it. Divisions can be categorized on geographical or product point of view, etc. Each division may have its own sales, engineering, and marketing departments. Matrix structure, groups employees by both function and product, can combine the best of both separate structures. A matrix organization frequently uses teams of employees to accomplish work, in order to take advantage of the strengths, as well as make up for the weaknesses, of functional and decentralized forms. Networks, grouping of organization that has been formed to create value through participation in an array of cooperative arrangements such as strategic alliance. Strategic Center firm manages the network, NAP. H&M is outsourcing its clothing to a network of 700 suppliers, effective in lowering costs. 19. Managerial processes, decision-making and influencing processes, interpersonal communication, managerial process of planning and controlling the organizing and leading execution of any type of activity. Management process is a continuous one and is run by the managers functioning at different levels. Management is now recognized as a distinct process in which managers plan, organize, lead, motivate and control human efforts in order to achieve well-defined goals. Process means a series of activities/operations undertaken/conducted for achieving a specific objective, a systematic way of doing things. For example, in a factory there is a production process. Similarly, in the management process, resources and human efforts are used in an orderly manner for achieving specific objectives. The management process suggests functions to be performed by the managers. Management is the distinct process by which the managers create, direct, maintain and operate purposive organization through systematic, coordinated, and cooperative human efforts. Management is a distinct process consisting of planning, organizing, actuating, and controlling, performed to determine and accomplish objectives by the use of people and other resources. Process in organization. Norms for proper functioning of the organization are evolved through organizational processes. Power in the organization, ability to get an individual or group to do something or to change in some way. Politics is a process to achieve power. Sources of power, positional, economic, knowledge, performance, categories of power, reward power, coercive power, expert power, charismatic power, personality, physical, ideological. Communication in organizations. It is significant for managers in the organizations in order to perform the basic functions of management, planning, organizing, leading and controlling. Communication helps managers to perform their jobs and responsibilities. Communication serves as a foundation for planning. Effective communication is a building block of successful organizations. Communication, promotes motivation. Is a source of information. Plays a role in altering individuals' attitudes. Well-informed individual will have better attitude. Helps in socializing. Assists in controlling process. Communication is a basic element in organizational structure and functioning and consists of 7 steps. 1. Message 5. Decoding 2. Encoding 6. Understanding 3. Transmitting 7. Feedback 4. Receiving 3. Communication directions. 1. Horizontal, aimed at linking tasks, units, and divisions. 2. Upward control system. 3. Downward job rationale, clarify procedures and practices. Feedback for subordinates, evangelize organizational goals, organizational decision making, broad policies or plans for the organization, programs and projects to achieve goals, operations of programs and management systems. Decision making has 8 steps. 1. Setting goals. 5. Generating alternatives. 2. Establish performance criteria. 6. Comparing alternatives. 3. Clarify, define the problem. 7. Implementation. 4. Develop success criteria. 8. Monitoring, getting feedback. 5. Models of decision making. 1. Economic or rational choice, bureaucratic organizations, rational choice decided upon. 2. Incremental bargaining, commonly used in conflict resolution, negotiation. 3. Simon's bounded rationality, aggregative, consultant-assisted method. 4. Peters and Waterman's well-managed model, referred to as non-decision-making model, based on observed perception. 5. Quantitative techniques of decision-making, conditions of certainty or uncertainty, degrees of calculated risk factors influencing decision-making, past experience, a variety of cognitive biases, escalation of commitment and sunk outcomes, individual differences, age, socioeconomic status, belief in personal relevance. 20. Managerial work effectiveness, successful manager work principles. Managerial methods and techniques. Managerial work effectiveness. Management implies effectiveness. It involves a set of practices that can be learned, such as management of time, focusing on employees and customers, building on strengths, identifying priorities, making effective decisions. Qualities of effective and successful managers. decision-making, planning, controlling, exchanging routine information and processing paperwork, motivating, disciplining, managing conflict, staffing and training, socializing, politicking and interacting with outsiders, communication, listening, oral presentation, written communication etc., effective delegation, time management, effective optimization mentoring feedback counseling discipline managerial methods and techniques 1. Social management. In any organization the main objection is to minimize the profit in spite of other values. But the real organization need to concern with social value and social needs of society by surrendering the some share of profit. It is because of social needs or values of society, e.g. if in a society some items are not allowed so that it should be avoid to produce rather than concept of organization underscore 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 underscore. If in a society some item are needed once in year firm should provide so that it shall be closer to society and goes to long run profit. 2. Management as technology. The method in which a firm uses the special education training and skills about the management and goes through it is called management as technology. Because almost all the internal problems of organization may be solved through techniques of management, so we can say the management as technology, technological awareness to minimize the waste, statistical analysis and computer science are essential. 3. Management as culture. The single person have its own personality through which he is appreciated or rejected or known. Similarly, the personality of organization is management culture. How the organization behavior impression and imagine called the management culture, e.g. good/neat and clean organization versus poor/dirty and loose organization. 4. Institutional level of management. In an organization when proper rules, directives, discipline, authorizes and responsibilities are given, then the management comes on institutional level where the management goes through hard and fast rule and managed very perfect and result oriented. 5. Committee management. The committee is for some special task within specific time period and special powers. The management of committee exercises such type of special powers, authorities and hierarchy is called committee management. This management has special and temporary title of name, power and facilities which automatically finished by the completion of task. 6. Production management. This type of management is involved in a production-based organizations where organization object is maximize the output. This means a certain technical skills of management are required which use to maximize the production and minimize the waste, so the kind of management do in this way called production management. 7. Sales management. It is a part of broader field of marketing, or we can say that it is part of the field of management which concerns itself with the managerial aspects of marketing. Major parts of sales management. 1. Functions of sales management. 2. Planning and execution. 3. Planning consists or research and evaluation of organization goals or targets. 4. Execution deals with assignment and underscore 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 of workforce and made good communication classification of sales management. 8. Financial management. The role of finance is very important in an organization, so to resolve the financial matters effectively by the management. Important factors of financial management. 1. Interest role. 2. Planning difficulties. 3. Demand of capital. 4. Business and individual with accounting problem. 5. Cash flow. 6. Primary and secondary market etc. Hierarchy of needs theory. It's probably safe to say that the most well-known theory of motivation is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. He hypothesized that within every human being there exists a hierarchy of 5 needs. These needs are: 1. Physiological, includes hunger, thirst, shelter, sex, and other bodily needs. 2. Safety, includes security and protection from physical and emotional harm. 3. Social, includes affection, belongingness, acceptance, and friendship. 4. Esteem, includes internal esteem factors such as self-respect, autonomy and achievement, and external esteem factors such as status, recognition, and attention. 5. Self-actualization, the drive to become what one is capable of becoming, includes growth, achieving one's potential, and self-fulfillment. As each of these needs becomes substantially satisfied, the next need becomes dominant. Lower order needs, needs that are satisfied externally, physiological and safety needs. Higher order needs, needs that are satisfied internally, social esteem and self-actualization needs. Explanation: Maslow's need theory has received wide recognition, particularly among practicing mangers. This can be attributed to the theory's intuitive logic and ease of understanding. Unfortunately, however, research does not generally validate the theory. Maslow's provided no empirical substantiation, and several studies that sought to validate the theory found no support for it.